I say all the time, there's never a morning where you're like, you know what? I don't have time to brush my teeth. Even if you're 5 minutes late, you're going to take the 2 minutes it takes to brush your teeth. Treat your passion the same way. If you take 1 to 2 hours a day and prioritize what we're saying, being in the space of where you want to go, good things will happen. They always do.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your host, Richard Coyne. On today's show, we're so pleased to have Art Morrison III. Art, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Art, so pleased you're with us. Thanks for joining the Road Less Traveled Show. Art, if you would kind of go into a little bit of your background, kind of talk about a little bit about your past, what you used to do, things like that, please.
Yep, Art Morrison III, former professional basketball player. I played literally 1.5 seasons overseas, most of my time spent in Portugal. After that, I came home, and what a better way to further monetize my basketball career than to start a youth basketball organization, AboveMAX Basketball. That was my first business, my first shot at entrepreneurship. Did pretty well over the years, but as I aged, I began to outgrow it from a financial perspective, right? The avenues that I saw to scale it it wasn't the path of least resistance. And that's how I found real estate, which I currently do now. I'm a real estate investor. In between there, I wrote a book. So I'm an author, but I wrote a book about that journey getting overseas. I'm really big on mindset and mentality. So at the time, I just do real estate and help a lot of people get started in really any career, but specifically it ends up being real estate.
All right, great. Well, we'll touch again. I'll ask you about your book a little bit later on, so we can make a mention in the show notes. Cool. But again, the youth basketball program, that's pretty cool. Where was that? Just in your general vicinity where you used to live, that kind of thing?
Yep. So right in New Jersey, where I grew up, which is the area that I wanted to service. It's a weird sort of middle class, small town, which serves as it's almost a disadvantage to if you're in the youth coming up, right? You almost prefer to be in an area of more opportunity, which typically is cities, right? Or where there's more eyes on the sport of basketball. So anyone who could make it out or be able to play professionally or even go to college out of the area where I'm from, where there's almost like no one's watching, the competition's not that good, right? So to make it out there's a level of admiration to it, right? It's admirable. So I wanted to give that opportunity, come back and give that opportunity to other people from my area. So that's how it started. And it went from North Jersey, South Jersey. It was difficult to grow because I'm the coach, right? So it was like, I can only be so many places. So we even dabbled in some online training. So we tried a ton of different ways to scale. It was a really fun journey of entrepreneurship and like learning, okay, this is what I'd like to do. Now, how do I make this a real thing, right? How do I make this, sounds audacious, but how do I make this the Apple of basketball training, right? The Nike of basketball training. Right. At the time, that was my goal. And so.
Gotcha. And again, what you mentioned actually is a common problem that people think about. Everybody thinks, oh, you know what? I hate my job. I want to quit my job. I want to do my own business. And what people don't realize is that, a lot of times they're buying themselves another job. If you buy a franchise, you bought yourself a job because you kind of got to be in that franchise. If you're starting a business from scratch, you're working your tail off essentially for yourself, pouring your heart and soul into that business, trying to make it grow. But again, you got to, in a way, almost start thinking ahead a couple steps down the road to how am I going to replicate this? How am I going to scale this? How am I going to grow this? Which means you have to start extracting yourself from the day to day. And
also, right. Not even just looking down the road, but you also have to be prepared for down the road financially. So I was so young, it was just like, I'm just going to start a business. You start an LLC, you get some contacts and you start training kids, right? But as I started to grow just in the space of entrepreneurship, I'm like, holy crap. Okay, now I get why when somebody launches a business, there's some sort of funding involved, right? Whether it's a loan, whether it's VC, which is venture capital for those who don't know, but whether there's some sort of money involved to get you going because people got to get paid, including yourself. Right. So myself being paid to train kids was like, as far as my mind was thinking, but it's like, well, what about me running the social media? What about me doing the marketing? What about the money I'm putting out to run ads? What about everything, administrative work, everything, bookkeeping, right? You're doing all of that. So now, to your point, not only did you buy yourself a job, you bought yourself 6, 7 jobs.
That's exactly right. Because again, you're cheap cook and bottle washer when you're starting out. I mean, you got to get enough money coming in the door to be able to hire people. And again, there's a book, Who Not How. Who are the people that can help you, accelerate your growth? Who are the people that can help you do those tasks? But how are you going to pay them? You got to have money to be able to pay them.
Yeah.
And being able to pay them offloads stuff off your plate. But again, obviously, you got to have the money coming in the door to do so.
Yeah.
So gotcha. So, Art, you mentioned that you've kind of shifted from professional basketball into this coaching, the youth league. Now you're doing real estate. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I loved doing basketball. I just absolutely loved it. Basketball, it's no secret, is a low-income sport, very similar to soccer. It doesn't require much. And soccer in America now has kind of surpassed other sports. I can't even call it low income, but in other countries, the reason why soccer is so popular is because you literally can ball up a sock and play, right? You can use any ball in your feet. Similar with basketball in America, not only is it prominent in lower income communities, right? Black communities, whatever. It's just a lower income sport. So the pricing surrounding that sport is much lower than hockey, lacrosse, soccer, even football, right? It's way more accessible, but there's only so much you can charge the talent in basketball. And at the next level, you can get sponsors and things of that nature. But long story short, from a capital perspective, and me being a grown adult and no longer 25-year-old, now I'm, let's say 26, 27, even 28, doing this, going in my 6th, 7th year, I'm like, man, I started to feel a ceiling. And at the same time, I don't believe in coincidences, but at the same time, a neighbor of mine was selling their home. For sale by owner sign in the window. And my older brother has been in real estate since I was 10 years old, 11 years old, maybe. So I knew the concept of wholesaling. I knew that, hey, this person put this tiny for sale by owner sign in the window. No one's going to see that. They're either trying to save money by selling themselves, or they don't know what they're doing and they need guidance. And I had enough knowledge to be able to at least give them some fake guidance. And I literally walked up to them and said, hey, you're looking to sell? Like, yeah, my mom passed away. We tried renting it. We hate being a landlord. We just want to get rid of it. And I knew those were the golden words in real estate. So I said, well, listen, I'll buy it. And I got it under contract. And I ran to every real estate professional I knew and said, yo, I got this house under contract, cash, for 120 grand. I know it's worth way more than that. What the heck do I do? And that ended up being my first wholesale deal.
Nice.
Where I made $15,000. And I said, man, it would have taken me 3 months on a good quarter, maybe 2 months, to make that training youth basketball, before expenses, you know what I'm saying? So, and all I did was connect 2 dots and I made 15 grand. And right then I said, I'm doing this. I'm doing real estate. I don't know if it's going to be wholesale. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm doing this. That was way too easy. And then at the same time, to kind of further that story, I'm big on social media. So, obviously I posted that transaction and my method of starting my real estate business was just telling people that, hey, I'm doing real estate. And by posting that deal, I ended up getting another one for $15,000 within that same fiscal year. So in that first year, I made $30,000 extra dollars just by connecting 2 dots. Someone who, wanted to sell a house for cash because their parents passed away. And someone who wanted, a flip or whatever investment they were looking to get into. And once I got a taste of that was 2019. It was over from there.
And again, it's about solving problems. The person had a problem. They had this house they didn't want. They didn't know what the hell to do with it. They were decided obviously to sell, but you wound up getting them probably better than it would have done and otherwise, and probably less hassle for them to have you make that connection and connect the dots to that other person that, again, was looking for some sort of investment. So you solve 2 problems at once. So
absolutely. All about problem solving. And I just love that concept of a product. And honestly, I would have to give kudos to my experience in the youth basketball space. It was like, you think your kid stinks and you want them to be better. I'm here to kind of make them not stink, or maybe they just need confidence, or they just need a different voice because they're muted their dad's voice, whatever it is. It was just about solving that problem more than it was about just training, right? Anyone can just train, but if you were really focused on the problem. So taking that and applying it into real estate, we were able to pretty much make immediate capital with no experience. Like, those were my first deals. I didn't take a course or anything before that. I knew the concept from YouTube and my older brother. Mm-hmm. So the races.
Nice. So where are you now? Kind of what's the path you're on now? You're really continue to do more wholesaling, or what are you doing?
Absolutely not. Because those two deals, I seen all I needed to see. I made a good chunk of change, but then the people that I sold the property to were the ones who were really building the real wealth or making the real money. So immediately after I took those exact profits, I bought 2 multifamilies. So I bought my first 5 units using those profits. And then I ended up doing a flip at the top of 2020. Very similar, right? It was owned by the Association of Retarded Citizens. That's their real name. They call them the ARC of Somerset County, right? It was essentially a group home for adult people who needed whatever, right? So it had like a ramp in front. It was a weird shape. No one could see the vision. Right? They wanted 170,000 for it. We offered them like 160. We lost. They came back to us because the person backed out because of some issue in the crawl space, right? Mm-hmm. Now I got cold feet because I'm like, holy, we really won this thing. So I'm like, man, like, I'm scared. I don't want to do it. It's really what it came down to. I won't even go into the details. I tried to back out. And they're like, well, what would you need to get it for to stay in it? They're really motivated. They just want to get rid of it. They've owned it forever. They're nonprofit. They ain't been paying taxes. What's the number? I said $100,000. And they gave it to me for $100,000. So as you can imagine, in New Jersey, which is absolutely insane. So as you can imagine, we bought it for 100, we flipped it and sold it for 350. I made $120,000 on my first flip ever. Right. And I did that using one of the parents from my youth basketball organization I actually partnered with. They put up the money for the down payment. So I used a hard money lender, bought that, blah, 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 that whole formula. I'm not sure if this show goes into that. But anywho, that ended up being the foundation for the whole business. I said, man, I borrowed 30 or it ended up being like $50,000 from someone to flip a house. I used the bank's money for all the rest of the money. I walked away with, 120, but I had to pay them back. I think I walked away net like 75, 80 grand. And I ended up buying another house and another rental property. But neither here nor there, it was like, man, every time I even stick my foot or my toe in this pool of real estate, I always make massive money. So from there, I think we did 5 deals that year, 4 in that first year. And every year since, we've done anywhere between roughly 6 deals a year ever since 2020. Yeah. I think this year will probably be the most. I think we'll probably touch 8 maybe, but we just continue that same formula. But now it's not so much flipping. Now we're, keeping the properties, cashing out and refinancing or collecting rent and distributing that among our partners.
Okay. Gotcha. Are you still looking in New Jersey? Or you're looking somewhere else in terms of where you acquire?
Great question. So New Jersey, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. To be more specific, Tampa Bay area, Florida, Wilmington, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, and Central Jersey, where we started. But I'll be honest, we just sold the deal in Jersey, man. I'm really unhappy with how expensive New Jersey is, the taxes and the carrying costs because the price points are so high. And we've been killing them in like North Carolina, which is properties are a third of the cost. And even here in Florida, you can find properties for, much cheaper in some areas. So we're kind of pulling out of New Jersey, but it's really hard because that's where my team is at. That's where my original, operation is.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you got a personal allegiance, you got a personal connection to the area, but at some point in time, you're right. If the deals don't work there, then you gotta find greener pastures to keep doing deals. So
playing overseas showed me the world is huge, man. Like I went to a whole nother country to do the same thing I was doing over here to play basketball. They were, I'm sure we'll get into the story of how I got overseas, but I sent 3,000 emails to 3,000 teams in the world of all different levels, A League, B League, C League, all these different questions, essentially posing as my own agent to get a contract. And I got one contract and it was in Portugal. So that was my first experience of man, the world is huge. You just need to find the opportunity. How hard are you willing to go to find that opportunity?
That's right.
Are you going to sit back in your chair like this and hope someone finds you, or are you going to go and find the opportunity? So that mentality helped me be able to scale the real estate business just fearlessly. What's the difference? I can do it in Jersey. I can do it anywhere.
Sure. Good. So Art, think back to your, maybe it's your playing days, your professional playing days, or your coaching days. Is there a funny story you can share that something happened to you?
That would be the funny story. So like when I was in college, and this is all in my book, Overcome, the Key to Unlocking Your Superhuman, but my story is pretty special, if I do say so myself. But in college, because I went to 5 high schools, they wouldn't let me play my freshman year of college. They took a year of eligibility, right? So I have 3 years of eligibility. I played 2 years, did okay. My senior year, which everyone knows is like your big year, it's your last year, you're more mature, all that. I tore my knee. I blew out my knee, ACL, MCL, and meniscus, right? So I have a bum knee. I'm sort of applying for jobs. One of the jobs I applied for was like the Brooklyn Nets intern, like radio job. I had a connection there. I was applying and I literally slammed my laptop shut because at the time the Brooklyn Nets were the worst team in the NBA. And I'm like, man, am I really about to do this right now? I've always wanted to play overseas. Like that was my goal. I feel like I can do anything. I can always get a job. My knee's about this big, wrapped up in all this like gauze and all type of stuff. And I closed my laptop. I said, man, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna play overseas. And it's not so much a funny story, but you can imagine I remember being in my coach's office, like the athletic department, and being laughed at by like not only my own coach, but other coaches from other sports. It makes sense. Like they're adults. I'm a 22-year-old saying I'm going to play overseas, and I'm literally on crutches as we speak. And the overseas season starts in 5 months. It wasn't funny to me at the time, but it was just crazy that like that was my first like, oh, I'm saying something that doesn't make sense to them, but I truly believe in it.
Yeah.
And then that's when I turned around and sent all those emails with this bum knee, and one team took a risk. And now for the rest of my life, I can say that I played professional basketball because I was a maniac and sat in bed, me and my girlfriend at the time, with this huge knee, copying and pasting the same email, sending it out to a bunch of random emails that ended in not even .com. It was like .uk and like just literally, you want to talk about a shot in the dark. That was my biggest shot in the dark. And I got a couple responses, but I got one contract from all of that. Nice. But it was totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Nice. And then you just worked your butt off and rehabbed your knee and got yourself healthy and all that, right?
Oh, so that was the other crazy part of this story. I ended up making an amazing comeback. It was more athletic when I came back. The doctors were like, man, we've never seen anything like this. And I firmly believe, like I worked hard physically, but I firmly believed it was here. I feel like my body my mind pushed my body to heal quicker, to push through workouts, to just be more prepared. And I was in insane shape before I tore my knee, which helps too, but neither here nor there. It just was like, it was very divine. And that's what pushed me to write my book, because it was like, man, I can't believe, I still to this day can't believe that happened. But it shaped who I am today. I think it shaped my success in real estate and as an entrepreneur overall.
Good. Yeah, nice. So in terms of just the sort of your deciding factor that kind of said, look, this coaching thing, youth program, it sounded like you were just realizing this wasn't going to scale. This wasn't going to take you where you. And
it sucked, man. It sucked. It was like, I'm not about to argue with a dad who never played this, who never played the sport of what's best for their son, or like over time, it just was like, man, what am I actually doing? Right. And the industry sucks too, like it's I don't know. It's not regulated, right? Like anybody could say, all right, I'm a coach, I have a program, and it's like gets into this weird space of like who has the coolest uniforms and things of that nature. And the energy wasn't good. And I think that my good was done. It was like, it did for me what it needed to do. And it did for the kids, especially my first like 5-6 years of kids. It did for them what it needed to do. But what did it, man, was the damn pandemic. Before the pandemic, we were crushing it. During it, obviously, we lost a lot of business, but I was still doing things virtually, and it was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then when it was time to start up after, we probably dropped 50% in attendance just because some people just weren't ready to.
Sure.
Right. The post-pandemic era was weird, but people were different too. After being cooped up in a year, people were a different type of. They just weren't as nice, weren't as understanding. They were a little more irrational. And during the pandemic was when, that was 2020, that was when we had done 5 real estate deals. So I'm like $250,000 in. So now I'm coming back, not really wanting to be there, but I miss it. So I'm like, yeah, let's freaking go. And it wasn't pleasant, but now it's not pleasant and I don't need to be here.
Right. Right.
So that was the no-brainer of like, all right, guys.
Way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hired a couple coaches and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I moved to Florida and here we are.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
So as you were really kind of driving in the real estate business in that direction, did you find some obstacles you had to overcome along the way?
Yeah. Real estate is like, the good is the bad. The good is that the numbers are big, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bad is that the numbers are big. So what would be a small mistake in another industry could be a $5, $10, $20,000 mistake in this industry. And I had to learn to like live with those mistakes, mitigate those mistakes, be more prepared, pay more attention to detail. I'm a very detail oriented person. So thank God I haven't really got crushed too much, but just typical mistakes of starting the business, typical obstacles of like, oh, wow, like I definitely shouldn't have done that. Like now I have to fix this problem, but it's not as simple as, if you make a mistake in youth basketball, it's like, oh man, I'm sorry. I'll let your kid play for free this season, or, come in for a free session.
Yeah.
Here's a t-shirt,
Yeah.
Real estate, it's like, oh man, we lost money. I lost a significant amount of my own money. So what am I going to do now? Right. How am I going to pay bills? Or even worse, we had partners on this deal and the deal lost money. How do I communicate that to partners? How do I, all of that. So it's, those are the obstacles, but I'll tell you what, I prefer those obstacles more. It's fun. It's more respected. People know that you're in it to do good, right? You're in it to, we could be investing in some kooky idea that I came up with for, I don't know, make up whatever crazy startup idea, which I'm saying crazy, but it could be the next Tesla. I don't know. But we're investing in something solid. We're investing in real estate. It's proven. And that peace of mind and stability alone is something that I personally didn't grow up with. So it's really cool to be a part of it, really cool to help others get into it, really cool to help others make money through it. You'd be surprised how many wealthy people have money and don't invest in real estate. So for us to be able to be a vehicle for those people is awesome. Right. There's not really many cons I see. I really enjoy doing it. I love real estate. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, even take that one step further. There's so many real estate agents that don't invest in real estate.
Yeah,
that's just crazy. Which is crazy. I mean, they're right there at the table, and they somehow don't recognize the opportunity to take that and say, you know what, I'm actually going to buy and hold that one myself, or I'm going to flip that one myself, or whatever. But anyway,
it's the one industry where you should get high on your own supply.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, Art. Tell me about your first victory that's really said, this is I'm going to do this. Was it kind of that first deal where you made 15 grand out of the gate by just making the introductions? I mean, obviously it was a little more involved than just, hi, Fred, meet Sally. But kind of was that the thing that really said, you know what, I'm going to really drive toward real estate?
So we had those 2 wholesale deals. We had my first 2 multifamilies. We had another flip that did really well, made like 120 grand, but I had a partner, so I made 60. None of those were really it. What really did it for me was when I figured out, because all of those deals were on market deals. We were finding them through realtors or through the MLS. And anyone in real estate knows that could be tough because everyone sees the deal. It's on Zillow. It's a ton of competition. You're paying top dollar for it essentially. Once we implemented marketing systems that put us in direct contact with homeowners, I'll never forget. This was November 2020. And we started our marketing. Actually, I think I did pay for like mentorship from someone who was a wholesaler. And I didn't want to wholesale, but I'm like, if I could find deals the way wholesalers do, then I don't got to pay wholesalers.
Right.
And that first, as soon as we learned and we turned our systems on, we got 2 properties under contract in 1 month.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, oh, it's that easy. This is simple. We could easily do 12 properties a year. We could do however many properties our money will allow us. And that really changed the business. And that's when it showed me like, wow, this could be a real operation. When I was buying properties on market, I almost had a level of imposter syndrome. Like, and anybody can do this. Anyone can find a realtor, find deals, make an offer. You either lose it or you win the offer. And then, but once we had it from top to bottom, how we find properties off market, how we find and present those deals to partners to fund those deals, right? Our book of lenders, our contracting teams, how we're managing them, once we had a top to bottom operation, that was November 2020, that's when I was like, oh no, I love this. This is, it felt like more legitimate business than I've done at the time. And that's when I was like, I'm going hard at this. Let's scale this. Let's hire, right? Let's bring, I was telling all my friends, family, quit your job, get your license if you want to make some commission. But if not, then I have something for you to do. Come help me grow this thing.
Nice. All right. Well, in your more real estate days, that now that you're doing this full time, is there a funny story you can share?
Funny? Yeah, it's weird because all the funny stories that maybe they're only funny in hindsight, man. Them damn stories ain't funny when you're like losing money. But funny stories. I would say anyone in real estate knows that there's like a war between like investors and contractors. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much a funny story, but I'm just really learning how you have to deal with some of these people who are contractors. And it's just like so fun dealing with the different characters that you get of people who essentially, it's manual labor at the end of the day when you're dealing with a general contractor or people. So I don't know if it's necessarily a funny story, but now that I'm in several different markets and demographics and dealing with different teams, I don't know. I just find it funny that all of the rumors and warnings that every mentor or investor will give you about dealing with contractors happen to be true. It's like the truest stereotype ever, It's like, and I don't think they mean to be. I think it's just the nature of their work. So I try to have grace, but it's not necessarily a funny story. I'm trying to think of something.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, but it is interesting dealing with contractors because again, I can't tell you how many times I've had something where they, the budget gets blown. Wait a minute, we had a budget, but costs went up, or whatever, and
time, literally whatever. That's the term. Literally, they'll say whatever.
Yeah.
When you have, and it's like, man, I feel like I'm not even talking to a real person. I'm talking to someone who's just saying whatever to get me the hell out there.
Right. And the pricing is insane these days with contractors because again, they kind of realize they can charge almost whatever they want. Perfect example. I have a guy who I've done a lot of work for in my personal house, and he's great. His pricing is he's not cheap, but he's certainly good, really good. And quite honestly, I learned something. He told me a story where he had to replace put a tankless water heater in for somebody, including the material, the labor, and he had to do some fitting and whatever. So he charged them $3,000, and they called him up after the work was done. They said, "Hey, is this thing going to work? We're a little concerned here." Well, he's like, "Why? Well, of course it's going to work. I showed you that it works. I stand behind my work. I'll make sure if you have any problems, let me know." And he said, "Well, other people were going to charge us $10,000. I'm like, "Are you insane?
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. That's just somebody taking advantage of the market." And again, there is a shortage of contractors to do work, so prices are going up. But again, you're right. It is amazing dealing with contractors and just trying to figure out how to stay sane with all the shenanigans that happen. So
it makes you want to act like out of character. You almost want to fight the contractor because it's like you just feel like someone's conning you to your face sometimes. And that's not all times. I've been blessed to have like good teams, especially now. But man, looking for a team. A lot of my mentees are always like, or my consulting clients are always like, "How do you find good contractors? Or what do you recommend?" I'm like, man, just trial and error, man. Get recommendations. But at the end of the day, a good contractor, it takes one deal for a good contractor to be a bad contractor, right? Like all they got to do is screw one person and that person could be you. And vice versa too. Like you could take a risk on someone who's young and new and trying to get in with no experience, and they could give you great pricing and do excellent work because they're new, right? It's trial and error, but
yeah. So where are you today on your journey? Where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, amazing question. Just continuing to scale, but sometimes you have to take steps back to take steps forward. And I'm in a phase now where, what dragged me into this so deep was what I explained earlier. Every inch of the process we were doing as a company, as a function, like I said, finding deals off market, raising capital, everything you can imagine. And now I'm growing into a space where, okay, now what are you good at?
Mm-hmm.
what do you like doing? Okay, well, only do those things. Everything else, other people can do, other firms, whatever. You don't have to have this huge, heavy operation to make money in the space. So where I'm at now is making, like if this is a relationship, you might start dating somebody because they're beautiful and funny and all that good stuff. And then you reach a certain point where it's like, okay, like now we have to actually work on the relationship to make sure that this thing is going to last until we both die, right? If we're going to get married or whatever. That's where my business is now. It's like, all right, real estate was fun. It was sexy. There was money. I was doing everything. It was cool to be able to have an opportunity for my friends and family to also work with me and all that. But now it's at the point where, all right, bro, if you're going to do this, really do this for the rest of your life. And I'm only 33. So it's like, if you're going to do this for the long haul, you need to make sure you're doing it in a way that you actually like it. It shouldn't be grueling. It shouldn't be daunting on Monday mornings. Like it shouldn't be overwhelming. It doesn't need to be. I know it doesn't need to be because you made 30 grand, not even trying in your first year. And you've been able to make multiple six figures in your early days. So now we're not making too much more than we were making in our early days, but it seems like we're doing so much more work. And you can convince yourself that it's for the greater good of growth, but it doesn't need to be that way. You can focus. And if I can give any advice on this podcast to someone listening, if you could find one or two things to get really good at and focus on, you almost have more room for growth there instead of spreading yourself thin and trying to be good or okay at 10 different things.
Right.
It just doesn't work like that. You got to have one sort of core function that really identifies you and your firm and really sets you apart from others as well. And that's where we're at now.
Yeah. That makes sense. Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
So, Art, can you talk about something you do personally, professionally, that you do to give back? I mean, you talked about your youth programs, how you help youth learn new skills, a new path, and you talked about how you were helping some mentoring right now. Can you talk about that a little more? Yep.
I hate the word mentoring, and I always say it on accident because it's overused, but I just hate it because there's bad people that use that word, especially specific. I'm a social media guy. So on social media, you see a lot of people who are like mentorship, get my mentorship, and they're taking advantage of people. So the way that I used to give back, my goal is to be one of the most transparent people on social media in regards to transparent in regards to the process, and the like what it really takes to be good in this space, the information. So I try to give away as much free information and as much detail as possible on social media because it doesn't matter, right? You have to be a sicko like me and you to be able to piece together stuff from social media and start a real estate business. You're going to need some sort of guidance if like the average person is going to need some sort of legitimate guidance to get started. So it doesn't harm anyone for me to give away as much free information, whether it's a website, a lender, anything as possible. So that's like my way of giving back. I love the idea, social media gets a bad rep lately, but I love the idea that we're all so connected and we're just in one big cafeteria and you can get so much free advice and consume such helpful content these days. So I love contributing to that as much as possible. But on the consulting side, as a service, notice I use consulting, not mentorship. But my goal, man, is to help people get started, but really hands-on. Not so much DFY, because I don't believe anything in the world should be DFY, right? But DWY, right? Done with you, as opposed to done for you, and just like really taking people under the wing and essentially partnering with them. I love the word partner. I love the idea of partnering because it's literally that simple. It's like when you go through a haunted house. Think about how terrifying a haunted house is to go through alone, and then think about how much less terrifying it is to go with your significant other, right? Or if you're your significant other, right? But then think about how less scary it is to go with someone of equal strength and defense capabilities, right? And then think of how much less scary it is with 10 of those people. So I look at partnerships the same way, and I'm like, man, if I could make real estate way less scary, way less intimidating by offering or packaging, right, a partnership and essentially selling it as a service. But it's not even about the money we make from that. It's about creating partners and creating more people that can change their life the way I did through real estate, because it really did change my life. So that's like
Nice.
Wait, back my shameless plug.
There you go. There you go. That's great. So Art, is there something you've recently implemented, or perhaps maybe you're doing right now that's kind of helping your business scale and grow?
Yeah, for sure. Kind of what I said earlier, just shrinking it down. I mean, we had, even on the mentorship consulting side, man, we had a course, and we had a group, and we had one-on-one, and it was a lot. And then we also had, like, our partnership program where you can invest with us, right? And we had so many things. I think what's going to be the key to us scaling over the next few months is we got rid of all of that. And it's just like, you either partnering with us or you're not. It's a matter of how you're partnering. Now, are you partnering with capital because all you want to do is put your money to work? That's one thing. Or you're partnering in the capacity that I just explained through consulting. You're new, you don't know what you're doing. I'll hold your hand. You can get the experience through me. You can make some money through me, and you can get the education, information, and knowledge through me. And those are really the two products that we're pushing. And I think the combination of the two, though, they kind of intertwine with the ability to park your money somewhere, but also the ability to learn how to never have to park your money anywhere outside of yourself. If you learn the strategies yourself, then you can do it yourself. And that's not for everybody. So I'm not afraid to show everybody how, because it's just not for everybody, right? If you're playing the NBA, you ain't trying to hear being also a full-time real estate investor, right? If you're an astronaut or a pilot or something that you love doing and you're passionate about, then no matter how much I teach you or hold your hand through it, you just want to put your money somewhere that it's going to grow while you still continue to do what you love. Right. So I don't mind teaching as many people, whoever wants to know, I don't mind bringing them along for the ride. And I think those two work together beautifully. And I think with that intertwined kind of dance that those two do together, I think that's really going to be the key to growing our business, because the more partners we have, the more demographics we can invest in. The more partners we have, the more capital we have, right? The more muscle we have, the more sweat equity that we have to put in. Right. So
nice. That makes sense. That makes sense to kind of focus, because there are a lot of people that do try to do too many things at once, and really just, focus on the couple of core items that are going to help grow the business and obviously help add value to other people. And that's what you're doing. So nice.
Listen, if you're in real estate, I mean, it's hard because there's so many ways you can make money. You can be, I had a list somewhere, but you can be a wholesaler, you can be a real estate agent. Then even as being an agent, it's like there's a lot of these new brokerages like EXP and Real, where then you make money by getting other people to sign up under that brokerage, right? So that's a whole nother business model. You can be a home inspector, you can be an appraiser, you can do title, right? Not everybody can be an attorney, so I'll skip that one. But there's just so many different ways you can make money just for raising capital. You can sell loans, broker loans, right? There's so many, and it's attractive. So when you get in, like me, and you made 15 grand doing a wholesale deal, and then you're like, okay, well, what if I got my license too? Then I could make wholesale deals for off-market deals. But if somebody wants to sell retail, I can make that money too. Okay, now I got my license. Then it's like, okay, I paid 2 points to get a loan to flip a house. Well, what if I was my own lender or broker? Then I don't got to pay 2 points. So now I got 3 licenses or 3 professions, right? Now I'm investing, now I'm raising capital, now I'm finding deals off. And you just find yourself overwhelmed. And like you said, you bought yourself a job, or like we both said, you bought yourself 10 jobs. Yeah. And it's like, if you would have just focused on one, you probably would make the same, if not more money, and empower more people.
That's right. Yep. Well, good. So Art, what's the best, what advice would you give with somebody who's considering making a path change?
Last night I was on the phone with a friend who needed advice. And I'm just like, the best advice I can give you is shut up, tell everybody around you to shut up, and listen. What do you want to do? Like, just listen. It's like that thing that you think about every day, or that thing that always comes up in conversation when you talk to loved ones. Do that. Don't even get to the part where you start asking, well, how am I going to make money off that? Or, yeah, but no, just do it. In today's day and age, there's nothing stopping you from doing anything. I don't care if you're a basket weaver or, you crochet blankets. Do that. Tell people about it. There's some way that it can scale and grow, but that way is not going to come if you don't take the first step of doing it. Yep. I don't care if it's real estate. It doesn't matter. You got to take that first action, and the law of attraction, I'm a big believer in, because then the opportunities within that space will start to come.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to work at a job or somewhere that you don't like to do and list all the ways why you can't do what you do want to do. I get it, because that list is long, because nothing is being presented to you because you're not in that space. I'm sitting here in front of the computer talking about real estate. So yeah, I can list all the ways why I can't play in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But if I, instead of sitting in front of this computer talking about real estate on this podcast, was going out to a field and training every day and reaching out to NFL players to train with them or whatever, I guarantee that my list of reasons why I can't play in the NFL will get smaller and smaller. And my list of ways that I can be an NFL player, or just, it might be NFL player dream, but then it might be football player, or it might be football trainer, or it might be football consultant, right? But opportunities in that space will come. You got to get in that space. So my advice is take imperfect action. Listen to your heart or whatever, your intuition, God, whatever you believe in, what it's telling you to do, and just go do it in some capacity. Go do it. Even if it's a little bit, it snowballs. That's my advice to everyone about any path change.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. You kind of get close to where you want to go, and then things will start happening. And, again, it's so much, when you open your mind to an idea, to a concept, all of a sudden you start seeing all these other things around you that you didn't see before. And they may very well be the things that help you drive down that path. So absolutely.
Yeah. You can't it's just that simple. Just give out. And also, I don't want that to be confused with like, quit your job and go do. It doesn't even require that either. Guys, we have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jobs or whatever your career path might be. Even if you're an entrepreneur, yeah, it sucks. It takes up a smooth 8 to 10 hours, 40 a week, but that's not all the hours.
Right.
So it's just about prioritizing, right? You never, I say all the time, there's never a morning where you're like, you know what? I don't have time to brush my teeth. Like you're gonna, I would hope, right? You're gonna brush your teeth no matter what. Even if you're 5 minutes late, you're gonna take the 2 minutes it takes to brush your teeth. And that's just because you prioritize it that much.
Right.
Treat your passion with the same way. It's not about discipline or any of that. Like wake up, take a cold shower and add 2 hours to your day. Nah, it's just about prioritizing. Mm-hmm. If you take 1 to 2 hours a day and prioritize what we're saying, being in the space of where you want to go, good things will happen. They always do.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, going and quitting your job, maybe that didn't work for a few people, but that doesn't necessarily, it's not mass advice that I would share with everybody. You got to be prepared. You got to learn your space. You got to learn where you're going.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, to your point, if you don't take action, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
If you don't start investing in that thing you want to do in a couple hours a day, X hours a week, you're never going to get there. So you got to start taking those steps.
Learning is an action, right? Don't get it confused. We're not even just saying like, just go do something.
Yeah.
Learning, studying is an action, right? Taking an hour a day. I've Googled so much real estate stuff. I've learned so much from Google, literally taking hours at a time, Googling real estate information, a definition that somebody said in conversation that I didn't know what it was. Like that's all action though, right? And all of that is important. That's your investment.
Yeah. I mean, when we were getting started in the large multifamily apartments, even before we bought our first deal, we were credible to everybody we ever talked to, whether it be a banker, a lender, a property manager, anybody, because we knew the language, we knew what we were talking about, we knew what we were looking for, we had a criteria. We weren't just, hey, help me figure this out. I don't know what I'm doing here. We were very credible as we went down that path. So you're right. Education is absolutely a part of it, but then follow up and taking some action and doing something with that education is the next really critical part. So excellent.
100%.
Good. So Art, what's the best way for people to reach out to you and say hello and see what you're up to?
Yeah, I'd probably Instagram at Art Morrison III, ART, M as in Mary, ORRISON, and then that's III as in the third, just like a suffix of a name, Art Morrison III. That's where I'm most active, most communicative. I try to respond to every single DM. I post a lot of informative content, so I'm a pretty good follow, I would say. And then other than that, my website's artmorrison3.com. You can check that out as well and get in contact. Also, those are probably the best two ways.
Mention your book again, please.
Oh yeah, so my book is Overcome: The Key to Unlocking Your Superhuman. It's on Amazon. You can. It's also at my website. I think I'm even giving away a free ebook for, like, if you put your email in, you get the ebook. I think I'm still doing that, so you can get it for free digitally. But I would love your support and got a hard copy. It's it really is an awesome book. And when I wrote it, I didn't realize it was awesome. I was just kind of telling my story and applying lessons to different phases throughout my story. But it got really good feedback and helped a lot of people. And I would love for a listener to get help, maybe get over or overcome what they're considering as an obstacle, which is actually probably just an opportunity for them to grow. So that's what the book's all about. And you can get it on Amazon. Overcome: The Key to Unlocking Your Superhuman. Excellent.
Well, I really want to thank you, Art, today for being on the Road Less Traveled show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out and having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. So thank you again to Art. And we also want to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like our show today with Art Morrison III. And also want to remind everybody a couple of important things. Park Capital Partners has going. First, we have the Park Capital Partners Value Add Fund, which is a 506c fund open today to accredited investors. And then we also have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit that Bill and I created as a way that we give back, another way that we give back. The way that works very quickly is, first, all the money donated to the foundation goes to do its best work, which is to help others, because Bill and I fund the foundation so that we can have that money help others. Secondly, we give personally, we give corporately, and then finally, when investors invest with us, we make a donation to honor that investor to a pre-selected list of 15 different charities. So reach out to Bill and myself at parkcapitalpartnersllc.com, parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. Love to have a conversation with you. And again, thank you, Art, for being on. Remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.